News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moskow.
Karen, we begin with election results in two key states. We'll start in Wisconsin, where voters picked a state Supreme Court justice in a race that billionaire Elon Musk poured roughly $20 million into. With 98% of the votes counted, Musk's preferred candidate, Brad Schimel, lost to Democrat-backed Susan Crawford, 55 to 45%.
Wisconsins stood up and said loudly that justice does not have a price. Our courts are not for sale.
Susan Crawford's campaign did raise $24.6 million. That was more than double Schimel's haul. Schimel told his supporters that he called Crawford to concede.
We will rise again. We'll get up to fight another day. But this wasn't our day.
Brad Schimel's defeat keeps a 4-3 liberal majority in place in Wisconsin's Supreme Court. The result could have implications in cases on abortion rights and labor laws, along with congressional redistricting ahead of next year's midterm election.
Well, Nathan, Republicans had a better night in Florida. They held on to 2 House seats in special elections to replace former Congressman Matt Gaetz and Mike Waltz. In Waltz's 6th district, Randy Fine defeated Democrat Josh Weil by a 14 percentage point margin, 56.7 to 42%. That was well below Waltz's 33-point margin of victory in November. But Fine says it's the result that counts.
It's a special election. You have to look at the turnout. I mean, there were twice as many people that voted. I don't think you can read much into it. We won by double digits. We're super excited.
And along with Randy Fine, Republican Jimmy Patronis beat Democrat Gabe Valamont in Matt Gaetz's old 1st district. Patronis told his supporters there's one takeaway from the race.
This election is a reminder that Florida Panhandle will forever be red and it'll be forever Trump country.
Jimmy Patronis won by nearly 17 points over Valamont, 56.9 to 42.3%, and Gaetz defeated Valamont in November by a 32-point margin.
Well, now, Karen, let's get to the story that the world is bracing for. President Trump's team is finalizing plans for reciprocal tariffs. They're set to be unveiled after the close of today's trading. We begin our global team coverage with Bloomberg trade czar Brendan Murray.
There's a range of options that the administration is still weighing. It starts with a very simple flat rate for all countries across the board. 20% has been thrown around. Then there's a tiered system where you divide countries into, say, 3 groups, and each group gets a different tariff rate. Or there's the customized, each country gets its own tariff rate route that the president could go. He's got all these options on the table. From what we hear from his advisors is he hasn't made that decision yet.
Bloomberg's Brendan Murray says the tariffs are expected to take immediate effect, with countries able to negotiate to bring rates down. A Trump trade advisor says the president's aiming to raise $700 billion a year in tariff revenue.
Well, Nathan, how will the world react to the Trump tariffs? The European Union is expected to be one of the hardest hit by the U.S. Bloomberg's Oliver Crook continues our global team coverage in Berlin.
I think, unfortunately for the EU, just like everybody else, everybody knows what it's called, Liberation Day, but they don't know what's in it. So what they've got to do is sort of produce a menu of different options, given what the potential moves of the Trump administration could be, and basically be ready to deploy them, as soon as possible. They have been taking a slightly more measured approach than the EU has in the past in terms of these trading discussions with the Trump administration. They want to take a measured response. We heard from Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU Commission, yesterday, saying that basically, what we've heard from the EU from the very beginning, we didn't start this, we don't want this, we want to negotiate a deal, but at the end of the day, we will respond, and we will respond powerfully if we have to.
Bloomberg's Oliver Crook says one of the most extreme retaliations by the EU could be the first ever use of its anti-coercion instrument, which could lead to restrictions beyond trade and services.
And Karen, Asia is also anxiously awaiting the tariff announcement. Bloomberg's Stephen Engel has that angle as we continue our global team coverage from Hong Kong.
Right now, we know that President Xi Jinping has essentially instructed his bureaucrats to remain calm through this period, wait to hear what those reciprocal tariffs will do to China tariffs, which, of course, the Trump administration version 2.0 has added 20% because of the fentanyl issue. So they're bracing for the worst and the better outcomes. The problem is there hasn't been a lot of high-level negotiations or even discussions between the two sides.
Bloomberg's Stephen Engel in Hong Kong says China thinks the tariffs already in place are unjustified.
Well, Nathan, Canada is also bracing for the extent of Trump's tariffs. Bloomberg's Derek DeCluet wraps up our global team coverage from Toronto.
I'd say the mood right now in the country and from what we can tell in the government is both anxiety and a little bit of curiosity, because there has not been a lot of information flow from the White House to his trading partners about how this is going to work. So Trump has said a lot of different things about Canada in his second term so far. How high will these tariffs be, and what will the carve-outs be? Will they go after Canadian oil, for example? Canada's got a lot more at stake here than almost every other country.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moskow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.